Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ASCA board meeting. The way we conduct our business usually is when people have something to say, we go around and ask everyone for their comments. And so you'll hear everybody's different voices. And as people speak, I would ask that you identify yourself with your name. And this weird voice that you hear is Anne Deschamps, the president. And now we will continue on with our meeting. And our first item is to ratify the December email business.
This is
a motion for that.
A motion to ratify the December email business.
This is Ann, and I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Rachel and seconded by Ann to ratify the December email business. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. And the next item on your, if you have an agenda before you, was our system update report, and we handled that in executive session because we kept our attorney present for that. The next item is solicitation of judging assignments, and this was added from our nationals meeting. Does anybody have anything they wanted to discuss about this?
This is Ken.
Go ahead, Ken.
I think we just needed to do a better job of clarifying what ASCA really needs to support its judges and programs. I think solicitation has got a very broad definition right now, and I think there have been judges and clubs who would find that it would be all right for just a judge to say that they are available. The judge for them is not really within the definition of solicitation. Solicitation is defined as overbearing and aggressive contact with someone to seek a judging assignment. And I think that for new judges who are going through the process where they need to secure judging assignments, I think that it would be all right for them to contact clubs and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. If it helps you out, I'm available. Just one time, making an offer, letting them know that that would be fine for ASCA. It doesn't breach the rule about solicitation.
But our current policy says that's not okay. And one thing that we tried to do was put on the website all the new, I think, Cal, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we now have the non-regular judges for confirmation are listed on the website for a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So that is our ASCA's effort to try to help those people to have their names in front of the membership so that they don't have to solicit and they don't have to contact clubs and say they're available. Hopefully clubs can go to the website and find the judges list and then find that list of new judges to check. It's marked in there so that you can find it. If you need any help, just yell out. Do we have anything else about this?
I just have a question. This is Jean.
Hey, Jean.
I think one of the questions that I had from Nationals was this putting new judges on the website for a year. I didn't realize that was program specific, or maybe I was still trying to find out if that was our intention and whether or not we should be putting apprentice, provisional, new judges for the other programs on the website for a year also. I don't think that question has ever been answered.
I think that's something we were going to, well, maybe it got put on here because of that, because we were still going to work on that.
And
I
I
don't
think it might have been you and I were supposed to work on it, I think.
Oh,
Could be wrong.
okay.
be.
Well then,
I don't know.
Jean,
Calla would know.
is that right, Calla?
I think that sounds right.
Okay. Well then, we don't have anything for this meeting yet.
So we will work on it and get back to everybody in February.
Yes, we will. That's absolutely right. So can we move to the next item, which is proposed new ASCA regions? And that was also added from the Nationals meeting. We postponed it till now. We've been getting member feedback on it. I know that on our discussion list, ASCA members list.
And
Would
this
we
is
like to go
Rachel.
around the room?
I think I'm the only person that's left that was on that committee. And,
I think you're
and
right.
I think that we decided to wait and get the member feedback before we move forward. Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yes.
agree with that.
So Rachel, do you think that the way to proceed is to get some more people to work with you on that and then proceed?
Quite frankly, Ann, from the member feedback that I've read, and I've read all that has been posted, it seems like there is some interest in cleaning up a couple of the areas. Probably not as drastic as was proposed. So yeah, it would probably be good if at least there was one other director working on that so that we can move forward now that we've actually had member comment.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, I could work with Rachel.
All right, Ken.
And
All right, then we'll have Rachel and Ken move forward with this. I know people were talking about maybe reworking Region 5.
Correct.
And so that's one that got strong support, I think. So I guess we'll let them work on it and come back to us maybe by the spring meeting, or do you need more time, do you think?
I would think by the spring meeting, because what we might do is go ahead and put some other proposals out for the membership to look at specifically about the areas that they targeted, and then get feedback on that before we move forward. What do you think, Ken?
I agree with that. I think we just take the last batch of comments and we work through those and we put together a new proposal based on those, submit it, and see what additions need to be made to those proposals. It's going to be a back and forth for quite a while, just like we normally do.
Correct.
Committee stuff. So.
Okay. Thanks.
All righty, that sounds great. Thank you for volunteering, Ken. So for the next item is the sponsorship committee, and that was added from email discussion. So there's no one's name on this, but does anybody have anything to say about this? Were we thinking of disbanding it?
And
we go
this
around?
is Rachel again. I was actually the liaison for the sponsorship committee. And I'm not sure why this was added on here, but the sponsorship committee, unless someone has any questions or comments, we're pretty much inactive and defunct. And one of the main reasons for that is because of the lack of clarity. If you recall, when our accountant comes in, he could never really define what might put us over the limit because of our status with the IRS when it comes to donations and sponsorships. So that was one of the reasons for the inactivity. So as far as I'm concerned, as the present and past liaison for the last 2 years, we could disband that committee.
Can we go
Do we
around?
want to go around and get everybody's opinion about that?
Sure.
Please.
Cindy, what do you think about that?
I'll go with Rachel's recommendation.
Denise?
I agree with Rachel. I think that's a good idea.
Jean?
Yeah, I agree with Rachel.
Ken?
Well, I just agree with Rachel. I think we really do need a sponsorship committee. This is something that's that could be very important to ASCA. I think that just because questions are left unanswered doesn't mean that we stop trying to promote ASCA and try and find sponsors to help us do the job that we're trying to do. Now, maybe we need to look more closely at whether or not a nonprofit organization is best for ASCA. Maybe we should just become a for-profit organization. There's so many things more that we really have not addressed. I really would request that we continue with a sponsorship committee. I would like to be on it. I see a lot of potential, a lot of things to look at. There's so much more information that we haven't even checked out yet to just totally reject the idea of trying to find sponsors for our programs. So I wish you would give us a second chance and hope we can do that. Thank you.
And this is Rachel. Can I answer Ken, please?
Yes, yes.
Ken, the idea of sponsorships on the local level is typically easier to obtain and to garner. But when we're talking about ASCA and we're going to the national level, there are so many reports, demographics, your monetary, what would you bring into the area? There is actually very specific details that you have to provide to some of the high-level sponsors before they will even consider taking anyone on as a potential sponsor. So with that, you would actually have to have someone that would create those reports and that type of documentation in order to even be able to get some of the larger sponsors. So I just want people to be aware of that. It is not quite as easy as going down to your local feed store and getting a sponsorship for 10 bags of feed. On the national level, it is quite detailed.
Do we want to leave this up for a while and continue to talk about that considering Ken's input? Or do we want to continue to, I'll go around and ask everybody else's opinion first. So Laura, what do you think?
I think as long as we are organized the way we are, that we don't need to have a sponsorship committee based on the advice of the auditor. I mean, he continues to say that's a very gray area and it could lead us into trouble. So I feel like that we don't really need that committee. But if we decide to go down the road that Ken's suggesting, then we can revisit it at that time. Thanks.
Okay, Linda?
Put it on the agenda for the spring meeting.
Liz?
And just,
I agree with Laura.
Rachel?
No, I've already given you my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. One thought I had was perhaps before we get to the spring meeting, we could ask Tom, contact him ahead of time and tell him that we would like an answer to the question about how much sponsorship can we take on without getting ourselves in a different, in a rough tax situation, and maybe he'll have an answer for us. Would that be something? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No.
I've actually asked Tom that on 3 different occasions, and his response is he cannot define a dollar amount that might prevent us from having an issue.
Okay. Then I guess I'll drop that idea.
And can I make a request of the directors?
Sure.
Can I just then have permission to do a research project and just chase down a lot of this stuff and see what I can come up with on my own time? And the only reason I ask for permission officially is that I would like to talk to the attorney, Chuck, and our accountant and include them in this research and discussion.
I don't have a problem with that. Does anybody want to say what they think about that? Cindy?
What is it going to entail, Ken? What are you looking at? You mentioned make a profit, but are you just looking at different tax status, or what do you want to change? Give me a better idea of what you're looking for.
Okay, that's simple. In my mind, I have it organized in the following manner. If we are precluded from having large sponsors because it affects our tax situation, then let's find what we could do to get large sponsors, what that entails as far as Rachel was saying with paperwork and stuff, just like writing grants. Let's learn about everything that would need to be done, and let's find out what the different tax codes are. And I would do a pretty exhaustive research project and trying to find different avenues. And then at the spring meeting, I could just present that to you so you could see what really is possible and what really is not possible for ASCA, and you can make some sort of a decision then.
Denise, do you have anything about this?
Well, sounds like a lot of work to me. I don't have a problem with revisiting it at the spring meeting. If Ken feels that he can come up with a more exact reason for, or a dollar amount on the sponsorship for nonprofit, or a different solution for something. So I don't have a problem if he wants to put the time in for it to revisit it at the spring meeting.
Okay, Jean?
Thank you.
Jean?
If Ken is willing to do this work, then I support it.
Laura?
I agree with Jean.
Linda?
Yep, I agree with Jean and Laura.
Liz?
I agree.
Rachel?
Yep, I agree. If Ken wants to do it, I hope he can find a way. That'd be great.
Okay, Ken, you're on.
Okay,
The next,
I'll do a research and present it at spring meeting.
okay. The next item is moderation of ASCA members group. Does anybody have anything on that?
Well, I think that's supposed to be me.
Okay.
So, so I think there's two separate issues here, that one of which is the rules, and the rules are not on the homepage yet, but they are sent in the welcome message when people apply to be on the ASC members list. We just now have gotten through the membership list, and I don't know if you're on the ASC members. You may have seen an email from Frank saying that there's about 122 that we could not verify memberships for, and that they would be receiving an email, and hopefully they could clarify things. There were also, I don't know how this happens, but there are also several people on there who are deceased, but apparently their emails were not bouncing. So we removed those. We've also gone through, and as Frank said, those that do not have a name associated with their email address, which also makes it hard to verify the membership, are being asked to provide personal information. The rules for the ASC members are the same as the rules were for the ASCA-L, which then we morphed into the rules for ASCA discussion. You may remember that when the rules came out for the ASCA discussion, there was a lot of negative pushback on phrasing. And so I actually took the opportunity to show, because the rules for the ASC members were still almost verbatim the same as ASCA discussion. So I took the opportunity to share those rules with ASCA members while we were working dogs the other weekend. And we decided on, or there were suggestions that were made as to how to phrase things to be a little more welcoming. So I'm working on that right now. Now, then that leads to moderation, because you have to have the rules first before you can have moderators, and we have to verify the membership. But the general principle at this point is that bad behavior that will be defined in the rules, they'll be put on moderation. So let me back up. First post, new member, always moderated. That's just the way it's set up. That's the way most of them are set up. Then you're off moderation. We're fortunate in that Joyce is willing as an administrator to also be a moderator, and she's very experienced at this. But then if somebody violates the rules, they'll be put on moderation. I mean, obviously, if it was really absolutely horrible, they wouldn't be put on moderation probably. But anyhow, they'll be put on moderation until, well, there's no set period of time. They're just going to be put on moderation until the feeling is that their posts are positive. If they do it again, they'll just be on moderation for the rest of their time. There was only one person ever removed from the asca in 25 years. And the feeling is that it's unlikely that the behavior would be so bad that somebody would have to be removed from the ASC members. So that's where that stands right now. Our action items are still finishing up with the members, finishing the rules, and then actively to start moderating. I'd like to say this is probably, moderation would probably start in the next 2 weeks, maybe. That's what we're kind of shooting for. So there you have it. Questions?
I'll still
Welcome.
work with you on that. If you want my help, I'll still work with you on the revisions and stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, we were, I personally, I thought our rules were okay, but then I noticed the negative reaction they got when they were posted as part of the ASCA discussion rules. And I thought, well, there should be a better way to phrase these, and apparently there are. So.
Okay, that sounds like a good timeline. Any questions? Do we want to go around? Cindy?
I'm fine with it.
Denise?
I'm fine with it also. Thank you, Jean.
Ken?
Nothing.
Linda?
I'm good.
Laura?
I'm fine, thank you.
Liz?
I'm fine, thank you.
Rachel?
I'm good.
Okay, me too. All righty, so the next item is Ask a Discussion Group. Laura?
I just didn't know if anyone had heard of anyone that wanted to take that over. Should we set a timeline that if we don't hear from somebody within a certain number of time, we go ahead and close it down based on the discussion we had in December? Several directors felt like they didn't want it to be ASCA's anymore, and it is ASCA's. So, if we don't find someone to take it over, then what's the next step? So I guess that's what I kind of wanted to hear tonight is Ann did put out another email about our post about, hey, we need someone to take this over if you want it to continue. I haven't seen any responses. Of course, I really haven't checked it.
Well, I asked them. the one I sent out asked them to reply directly to me if they were interested, and I put my own email address on there, and I haven't gotten any responses, but that was only like Monday or Tuesday that I posted it, because I wanted to check the minutes, and the minutes just said that they wanted, that I was supposed to, as president, post something asking for someone to take it over as owner. And that's what I wanted to check with the minutes and see exactly what I was supposed to be asking for. And there was nothing in the minutes that had anything to do with a time limit, so I didn't put that in there. So I guess that we just wait and see if we get somebody, and I can report whether I got somebody as soon as I get somebody, and we can go from there, I guess.
Okay, I just didn't know what we wanted to do, if we wanted to impose a timeline, or, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's harming anyone. There really honestly hasn't been much discussion on it since, for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. The next
May I
item.
just say, after what you said, may I respond to you, Ann?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay.
I would just like to say that ever since that list was decertified and a new one was put in its place, that discussion has completely stopped. I mean, it's not being used. So it does not need to be there for people who are interested to have a group for discussion to just take that one over. They could create it at any time. So I would like to move that we shut down the decertified asca discussion group.
I'd have to agree with you, Ken. You're right. There has been no discussion since it was made unofficial.
Second, Linda.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Ken and seconded by Linda to decertify the asca discussion list as a discussion list. That's what I got, but I don't know if that's right. Is there any further discussion?
It was just to shut it down. It's already been decertified.
Okay, shut it down. So the motion is to shut down the asca discussion list. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I think the 300 people that signed up for that did so in good faith. And so I just think a nice closing letter, just once again inviting them to, and ASC members like you already have, but just maybe one last, we really appreciate the fact that you were interested in this, and you can continue, these types of discussions if you will join over here now. I don't want to offend anyone that, joined out of, in good faith. That's all.
Okay, so I think that's a good idea to have a nice goodbye thing, and I think I could run something by you and see if you like it, Laura, before we do that, if we vote it down. So do we have any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? I abstain. That's Ann. Okay, the motion carries. Now the last item on the agenda is the Judges Education Committee, and that is Rachel.
I've been way too popular tonight, guys. You guys placed me as the temporary liaison for the Education Committee at the Nationals. And so there really wasn't any movement on that committee at all. And I did speak to Rick Gann while I was there at Nationals. And I got a little feel for the committee from him and from others I talked to, and it just seemed that they were disjointed in their efforts. And so I gave them a little bit of time, and finally on December the 20th, I reached out to them again after having the initial contact saying you guys need to elect a liaison, and nothing had happened. So on December 20, I reached out to them again, and I said, hey guys, you need to elect a liaison and get your committee going. And I reminded them of their purpose. And the reason I did that was in speaking to the different people, again, their purpose was rather confused. Some on the committee thought that they were going to be writing essentially the education for all the programs, while others on the committee thought that they were going to be developing the framework for the program. And so it was rather a contentious committee that really wasn't going anywhere because of the lack of understanding of what their creation was. And so I went back to them and said, hey guys, you were basically created to develop the framework. And if you'll go over, Calla actually posted on the on our Dropbox the directive to the Judges Education Committee, and that pretty much defines what their purpose was. And it clearly says the content of any test or seminars will be left to the program committees to decide. This ad hoc committee will propose a framework for this education. So even after my second suggestion to the committee, again in early January, to go out and select a liaison and get their committee going, there has been absolutely no movement on that committee. So I'm bringing to the board the lack of follow-up or the lack of action on the education committee and asking, what does the board want to do with this committee?
Does anyone think it would be helpful if I, as president, wrote to them and reiterated this and ask them if they want to continue? And like, ask them also, tell them that Rachel is their interim liaison, and that we're asking them to pick one that they want to work with and start working on this. Would that help at all? Just a thought.
I don't, this is Laura. I don't think that would help. I've talked to Gail and I've talked to Rick. They're both members of the committee. I think maybe the best thing would be just to start again. And it's a pretty specific skill set that you need to do what we really want, which is someone to suggest frameworks for us as far as online testing or online educational systems, things like that. And so maybe we need to assign someone on the board to do some research. And maybe that would be a more effective way to do that. Any opinions? I think you want to go around and ask. I don't think that this committee, I mean, Gail told me, I think Gail's already resigned, and I don't want to speak for Rick, but he didn't seem very hopeful about the committee going anywhere.
Okay, Cindy, what do you think?
I'm torn between, we've asked, for their help, and now we're turning it down, but we're also not getting any action. Do you think, from speaking to the members, that a deadline, what the main problem seems to be, the difference in objectives and what their purpose is, or they were formed during the holidays when it was a tough time for everybody?
Cindy, this is Rachel. Can I read to you guys what I sent to the Education Committee on December 20?
Okay.
Education Committee, please note that you have missed the deadline for nominating a liaison as per the committee procedures. And I've put the committee procedure on there. And since I was nominated by the board to function as liaison until one was voted upon by the committee, please note that there has been little to no comments regarding work toward the purpose for this committee to define the presentation method by which ASCA can provide a judge's education program framework for all venues. That is the defined purpose for this committee. The goal was never to create judges' education for the venues and programs, but to define the framework as to how the education was to be presented. The venues and programs are still responsible for content of their particular judge's education. We'll ask you all an honest question. Do you believe that your input is beneficial to the defined purpose of the Education Committee? The goal is not to offend any member of this committee, but to ascertain if you believe that your talents can support the defined goal of the committee. The only one that responded to that was Gail, and that was later that day, and she said that she had already resigned and had sent that to Laura. And then Tony Viola Pearson was asking for, well, what could we do? And then that conversation died. I suggested the first order of action was to elect a liaison. And then she followed up on January the 3rd with Calla asking for an update. So that's where we are right now on the committee. And with all the background that Laura's given you and the little bit that I've been able to ascertain from some of the other members.
Okay, Denise, what do you think?
I think we should have a motion to close that committee and redesign what we want to ask the committee to do. And at that point, start over again.
Jean?
You can't push a rope. And if people have been asked multiple, and Rachel has been very direct and the interest is not there, then I think that we should remove the committee from the table. And I would make that motion.
Okay. Jean?
I think that deciding on a framework is really a board function. Personally, it's something I'm interested in, but I'm not sure that I could commit time to it. So it's something that I would have to think about a little bit, but I think the board really should be the one that says, this is the framework that we're going to use, and we give that framework to the committees so that then the committees can use that framework to build their education. Because I've seen some committees go, oh, well, we can't spend this money or we can't do this, and that's not really, in some respects, that's not really something they should be concerned about. They need to think about the best way to get the information to their judges, utilizing the tools that are available to us right now. And so I would be in support of getting rid of this big committee and charging a director or two with doing this if we can find some directors that are willing and able to spend the time to do it.
Ken?
I think that the reason why I'm reading the directive right now, and I'm looking at the second paragraph, and I think that's where all the confusion came in. Somehow that doesn't seem to me to correctly reflect what we had talked about as far as framework and the education program. So this whole thing came about because I had, somebody had requested that we start, everybody wanted to start having judges education. We decided that we needed to do something. I discussed the education that I have online at work and when I was on the fire department, that everything was online. There's programs where you create a test and the program then monitors the giving of the test. It certifies the test was correctly taken. It archives the testing was done. And we had talked about, I had proposed that we have an adult education specialist who's trained in that and been working in the field successfully for quite a long time. We asked them to develop a framework for us, and the framework was just supposed to be, how would the committees develop their education? Would it be just totally paper? Would it be online? Would it be what it would be? That was the framework, not how often or what would it entail, but in other words, if we're going to use a software program, which program was that going to be? And I think that perhaps we should look at that again because this didn't seem to work all that well given ASCA's ASCA status. If we were just to go to a member who has degrees in adult education and who makes a living by setting up all this corporate training, why could we not ask her to give us a framework for all the committees to work within and then let the committees design their training for their judges?
Okay. Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Laura, do you have anything?
Yes, Jean said what I guess I was trying to say earlier is I think that we probably made a mistake in trying to farm this out to a committee with good intentions, well-intentioned, but I do think this is a board function, and I would like to ask some of my tech people on my campus. I've talked to them about this already. They think there's some easy solutions that would not cost us anything or very little, and I'd like to investigate those and bring those to you guys next month.
That would be awesome.
Great.
And if these solutions don't pan out, then we can perhaps look like Ken said, to other sources.
I like that.
I like your idea, Laura.
Linda, do you have anything?
No.
Liz?
I love the idea that Laura put forward. I think that would be far more effective. And then if that doesn't pan out, maybe we can find somebody else to help us. We already have some committees that have done very good work in trying to put judges' education forward. Like the Obedience Committee and the Rally Committees have really been working hard on this. I know that the Confirmation Committee has a subcommittee working on this. So I think that if we get one framework and we tell them this is what's available for you, the committees will go forward and it'll be done. So I think we do away with this Education Committee and work with Laura's suggestion. Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay. Rachel.
Oh, I love it. That is exciting to me because that is exactly what we need. And so while I do not want to hurt these people's efforts, but the committee really does need to just be abolished, and the board takes this on. And I think it's great that Laura has the resources. And you know, all this time, Karen Black did the online judges education for Rally, did an outstanding job. And we had suggested to all the other committees that they partner up with Karen to determine how she did it. So now, if Laura has someone that will help with this, that will just be great. I'm excited about that.
Okay, what I've seen mostly in the confirmation committee when I was their liaison is their hesitancy to work on education because they didn't really know what they had to work with. So I think that this was a great idea, but it's kind of been something that may have stifled some work on education because the committees didn't know what the framework was going to be, as it were. They didn't use that word, but they didn't know. The other thing is they thought maybe they would have some costs involved and they didn't know what they were allowed to spend, so they weren't working on it because of some of those issues. I think it would be nice if we could. I love what Laura suggested, and when she first said something about it should be worked on the board level, I was really hoping she had somewhere to go with it and that she would volunteer to do it. So thank you, Laura. I think that's wonderful. But I think it would be good if we could figure out what to say to the committees so that they will indeed work on education and not hold back just because we're trying to work on what it's going to look like when we put it up there, as it were. So that's all I have to say. So Denise made a motion, and I guess Denise, can you repeat your motion?
I think that the committee as it stands today should be closed down and that the board should redirect and make the outline for the committee procedures and then reestablish a new Judges Education Committee.
Do we have a second?
Linda.
Okay.
I don't think, do we want to make a new Judges Education Committee? Because that was like the last line of Denise's motion. I don't know. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that was what we wanted to do.
Can we just disband the current committee and then let's wait and see what happens next month and then decide what we want to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so Denise's motion is to disband this committee with our sincere thanks for any thoughts and efforts they put into it so far. And then what Laura has for next month and then go from there. And we have a second by Linda, I hope, still.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries. I think one of the things that I don't want to discuss, but I just want to say something briefly, is that Cal sent us information about the thing we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting. And so I think we need to go on with that, and I guess we'll do that by email. So that would be Cal's. This has a registration number and reinstatement after it. I'm trying to be vague. So I think we'll have to work on that on. Did somebody say
this is Liz. Cal sent an email with the information. I think we can just go ahead and keep on discussing it by email.
Okay, very good. So I guess we're ready to adjourn our meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Yay.
Good night, guys. Night.
The meeting is adjourned at 9:45. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Happy New Year.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.